You're sitting in a room with someone you just met. The conversation stops. Nobody says anything. 10 seconds pass. Your palms are sweating. Your mind is racing for something, anything to say. But the real answer for why this feels unbearable is far stranger than simple awkwardness. It's not about manners. It's not about small talk. It's about survival. Your brain was not built for silence. It was built to listen for threats. For most of human history, silence didn't mean peace. Silence meant danger. Think about it. When was the forest ever truly quiet? Birds stopped singing when a predator moved through the trees. Insects went still when something large approached. Silence was the sound of the world holding its breath. And your ancestors learned, over hundreds of thousands of years, that quiet often came right before something terrible happened. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist who has spent decades studying stress in primates, has shown that the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, doesn't need a loud noise to fire. It responds to the absence of expected sound just as strongly. Silence itself can trigger the same fight-or-flight response as a sudden crash. So when a conversation stops, your brain doesn't register calm. It registers a gap where information should be. And your nervous system does not like gaps. Here's where it gets stranger. In 2014, a team of researchers led by psychologist Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia ran an experiment. They put people alone in a room with nothing to do but think. No phone, no book, just their own mind. Some participants were given the option to press a button that delivered a mild electric shock to themselves. You'd think no one would choose the shock. Silence over pain, obviously. You'd be wrong. Nearly half the participants shocked themselves rather than sit with their own thoughts in silence. One man shocked himself 190 times in 15 minutes, just to avoid the discomfort of quiet. Why would a rational person do that? Because silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of your own thoughts, unfiltered, unedited, with nowhere to hide. And for most of your day, you don't actually sit with that. You fill every gap. Music while you walk, a podcast while you cook, a phone screen the second a conversation lulls. Your ancestors didn't have this option. When silence fell, they had two choices. Listen for what caused it, or fill it with sound to signal they were still there, still safe, still part of the group. That second option might be the real root of small talk. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, known for his research on social group sizes, has argued that human conversation evolved as a replacement for something much older. Grooming. In primate groups, animals bond by physically grooming each other, picking through fur, removing parasites. It's slow, it's intimate, and it releases endorphins that build trust. But as human groups grew larger, there wasn't enough time in the day to groom everyone you needed to bond with. So language took over. Talking, Dunbar suggests, became a way to groom multiple people at once. Vocal grooming instead of physical grooming. And that means every time you make small talk about the weather, or ask how someone's weekend went, you're not exchanging information. You're doing something much older. You're maintaining the social bond that once required touch. Which means silence between two people isn't just quiet air. It's an interruption of bonding. A pause in the very thing that once kept you protected inside a group. That's why silence with a stranger feels different from silence with someone you love. Have you noticed that? Sit in silence with a close friend, a partner, someone you deeply trust, and it can feel peaceful, comfortable even. But sit in silence with someone new, someone whose intentions you haven't fully assessed yet, and every second stretches painfully. This isn't a coincidence, it's a signal. Comfortable silence means your brain has already run its threat assessment and filed this person under safe. Uncomfortable silence means the assessment is still running. Your brain hasn't decided yet whether this person, this gap, this lack of information means something is wrong. Psychologist Namja Coudenberg has studied exactly this. Her research found that even brief silences during conversations, as short as 4 seconds, can make people feel less connected and more uncertain about how the interaction is going. 4 seconds. That's all it takes for your brain to start asking questions it can't answer. Did I say something wrong? Are they judging me? Should I speak? None of these questions existed for most of your evolutionary history in the way they exist now. What existed was something simpler. Is this quiet safe, Or is this quiet the moment before danger? Your ancestors who paid close attention to sudden silence were more likely to notice a predator in time. The ones who ignored it, who let the silence pass without concern, were less likely to pass on their genes. Over time, this built a species that is, quite literally, wired to feel unsettled by nothing. Nothing became something to fear. And modern life has made this worse, not better. You are almost never actually in silence anymore. Traffic, notifications, background music in every store you walk into. Your baseline expectation for sound has shifted so high that true quiet now feels foreign, unfamiliar. And your brain treats unfamiliar as unsafe by default. This is part of why so many people struggle to meditate, to simply sit. The instruction sounds simple: close your eyes, breathe, do nothing. But doing nothing means facing a level of silence your ancestors experienced regularly, and your modern brain now finds almost intolerable. There's another layer to this. Silence doesn't just remove sound, it removes distraction from your own internal monologue. Neuroscientist Marcus Reichel discovered what's now called the default mode network, a system in your brain that activates when you're not focused on any external task. It's the network responsible for self-reflection, for replaying memories, for worrying about the future. When the outside world goes quiet, this network gets louder. That's the real reason the electric shock study worked the way it did. It wasn't that people preferred pain to nothing, it's that pain gave the mind something external to focus on, something to override the internal noise that silence had let loose. So the discomfort you feel in a quiet room isn't really about the room at all. It's about what surfaces when there's nothing left to distract you from it. Consider what this means for your daily life. Every time you reach for your phone during a lull, every time you turn on a podcast just to fill a walk, every time you rush to fill a pause in conversation with a joke or a comment you didn't even mean to make, you're not just avoiding boredom, you're running an ancient survival response. Fill the gap, signal safety, stay part of the group. Don't let the quiet last long enough for something, anything, be it a predator or your own unresolved thoughts, to catch up with you. Understanding this changes what silence actually means. It's not a void. It's not empty air waiting to be filled. It's a mirror. It's the sound of your own nervous system deciding, in real time, whether you are safe. And maybe that explains something you felt but never had words for. The next time silence falls between you and someone else, in a car, at a dinner table, during a pause in a phone call, notice what happens in your body before you rush to break it. Notice whether your mind is scanning for danger or simply sitting in stillness with someone it already trusts. Because the quiet was never really the problem. It was always about what your ancestors trained you to expect right after it.